The shattered glass on the floor of the Grove Bistro didn't come from a dropped wine bottle. And the woman standing behind table 7, order pad still in her apron,
Enjoy your meal.
moving with the silent precision of a close-quarters combat specialist, wasn't just a waitress. For 3 years, the regulars at the Grove thought Jenna Matthews was simply the quiet server who remembered their usual orders and never made a fuss. They thought she was timid. They thought she was invisible. They were dangerously wrong. When four-armed men burst through the front door with masks and AR-15s, they thought they were the predators. They didn't know they had just locked themselves in a room with a United States Marine. This is the story of the night the hunters became the hunted. If you're watching this without subscribing, you're basically saying you don't want more stories like this. Prove me wrong. Hit subscribe. Tell me where you're from in the comments. Takes 3 seconds. Done? Good. Now let's begin. It was a Thursday evening in late October when the rain began. A steady drizzle that turned the sidewalks of Maple Street into black mirrors reflecting the warm glow of the Grove Bistro's windows. Inside, on the main dining floor, the air smelled of rosemary, garlic, and fresh-baked bread. It was the dinner rush, the 6:30 p.m. wave when families and couples filled the cozy restaurant with conversation and the soft clink of silverware. Jenna Matthews moved between tables with practiced efficiency, balancing a tray of entrees on her left hand. To the casual observer, Jenna was background noise. She was 32, with chestnut hair pulled into a neat ponytail. She walked with an easy, unhurried gait, shoulders relaxed, a polite smile perpetually ready. She spoke in a warm but quiet voice. She never complained about difficult customers. She never asked for prime shifts. "She's like a robot," whispered Marcus Chen, the 24-year-old bartender, polishing glasses at the bar while scrolling through his phone. I asked her what she did last weekend, and she said, "Cleaned my apartment." Who deep cleans for 2 straight days? Rachel Torres, the head chef and owner of the Grove, didn't even look up from the expo line where she was plating a salmon special. "As long as she doesn't drop plates and keeps the customers happy, Marcus, I don't care if she alphabetizes her sock drawer. Just make sure she takes her breaks. She works like she's got something to prove." Rachel was brilliant, driven, and exhausted. She just finished a brutal 12-hour day prepping for a private event and was running on espresso and adrenaline. She didn't notice things about people like Jenna. She didn't notice that while Jenna moved casually, she never turned her back to the entrance. She didn't notice that when a delivery truck backfired on the street outside, Jenna didn't flinch. She pivoted her head toward the sound, her eyes scanning the windows before anyone else registered the noise. She didn't notice the faint scars crisscrossing Jenna's knuckles, hidden beneath the silver rings she wore. Jenna entered an order into the POS system. Table 12, 2 ribeyes, medium rare. Side salads, ranch. Water, no ice. She wasn't bored. She was aware. Old reflexes didn't disappear. They just waited. 5 years ago, Jenna Matthews wasn't refilling water glasses. She was Corporal Matthews, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, running patrol operations in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. She had cleared buildings in pitch darkness. She had provided security for convoy movements under contact. She had carried a wounded lance corporal 300 meters through open ground while taking sporadic fire from a tree line. She had left that life behind, or so she kept telling herself. "Hey, Jenna," called Marcus, leaning over the bar. "Can you grab the cocktail napkins from the storage closet? We're almost out, and I've got 6 martinis to make." Jenna looked up, her face pleasant and blank. "Sure thing." She stood, no wasted motion. She grabbed her empty tray and walked toward the back hallway near the kitchen, her sneakers silent on the hardwood floor. The storm outside was picking up, thunder rumbling low enough to vibrate the windows. As she reached the storage closet just past the employee bathroom, she heard it. It wasn't a sound that belonged in a restaurant. It wasn't a pot dropping in the kitchen or a chair scraping against the floor. It was the metallic snap click of a charging handle being pulled back on her rifle. Jenna froze. The casual stride vanished. Her spine straightened. Her weight shifted to the balls of her feet. She didn't breathe. Crash. The front door of the Grove exploded inward. Glass sprang across the entryway like shrapnel. Jenna stepped backward into the storage closet, leaving the door open just an inch. Through the narrow gap, she watched. 4 men entered. They were big. The leader stood at least 6'3", 240 pounds, wearing a black hoodie and a ski mask, tactical gloves, heavy boots. But it was what they held that made Jenna's pulse spike. Not with fear, but with recognition. AR-15 platform rifles. 3 of them. The 4th man carried a pump-action shotgun. These weren't amateurs with handguns. These were men who knew their equipment. They didn't hesitate. The leader moved with deliberate, controlled aggression. Jenna watched as he swept his rifle across the dining room, his muzzle disciplined tight. Jenna glanced down at her wrist. No smartwatch, just a simple black Timex. 6:47 p.m. She touched her apron pocket. Her phone was at the server station. She was unarmed. She was in a dead-end storage closet, and wolves had just walked into the fold. The warm hum of conversation in the dining room shattered like the broken glass. Everybody down. Hands where I can see them. From her position in the darkened closet, Jenna saw the scene unfold down the hallway. Marcus dropped a bottle of gin. It exploded on the floor in a cloud of juniper and glass. Rachel stepped back from the expo line, her hands instinctively rising. Customers screamed. Chairs toppled. A child began to cry. The leader, whose name Jenna would later learn was Vincent Cole, kicked over a high chair near the entrance, sending crayons skittering across the floor. His partner, stockier and twitchy, aimed his shotgun at the bar. Phones on the tables. Now, anyone moves for a door, I start shooting. Rachel, usually in control of her domain, was pale. She raised her hands slowly, her chef's knife still in her grip. Please, we have families here. Kids, just take the money from the register. Boom. Cole didn't shoot her. He fired a single round from his rifle into the ceiling. The sound in the confined space was apocalyptic. Dust and wood splinters rained down onto the tables. Wine glasses shattered from the concussion. The echo slammed against the walls, leaving ears ringing and hearts hammering. Next one goes in somebody's leg. Cole roared. Nobody's a hero tonight. You do what I say, you go home. You try something stupid, you don't. Real simple. One of the other robbers, lean, nervous energy, began moving through the tables, snatching phones and wallets, shoving them into a duffel bag. The 4th man took position near the shattered entrance, shotgun covering the street. Jenna, still in the storage closet, felt her heart rate spike. Not from panic, but from the familiar dump of combat adrenaline. Time dilated. Her vision sharpened. Threat assessment activated. Primary target. Male, heavy build. Command presence. Weapon. AR-15. Likely semi-auto. 30-round magazine. Sidearm on right hip. Looks like a Glock. Secondary targets. 3 more, varying skill levels. Nervous one is a liability. Unpredictable. Hostiles. 4 visible. Friendlies. Approximately 20 civilians including staff. 5 children visible. Environment. Confined space. Limited hard cover. Tables provide concealment, not protection. Kitchen has potential improvised weapons. Exit blocked. She needed to move. If she stayed hidden, she was useless. If she charged now, 40 feet away with zero cover, She was dead and the hostages were in more danger. She needed to become part of the scene. She needed to get close. Jenna took a slow breath, closed her eyes for 1 second, and made the switch. Corporal Matthews receded into the shadows. Timid, terrified Jenna the waitress stepped forward. She pushed the closet door open clumsily, stumbling into the hallway. Her tray clattered to the floor. Cole spun toward the sound, rifle snapping up. Freeze! Jenna threw her hands up, trembling violently. She hunched her shoulders, making herself smaller, helpless. She let her eyes go wide with shock, her mouth hanging open. Please don't shoot," she stammered, her voice cracking. I was just getting napkins. I'm just the waitress. Please." Cole studied her. He saw the frumpy apron, the ponytail coming loose, the absolute terror radiating from her posture. He saw prey. "Get out here. Hands up. Move slow." Jenna shuffled forward, hands shaking above her head, tears streaming down her face. Inside, behind the mask of fear, Staff Sergeant Jenna Matthews was already counting steps, measuring angles and planning her attack. "Move to the center of the room. Now!" Cole barked, gesturing with his rifle toward the open space between tables. "Anyone still sitting, you're standing. Anyone near a window, step away. You've got 5 seconds." Jenna shuffled forward with the others, her hands still raised, her face a mask of terror. Around her, the dining room had transformed into chaos. A middle-aged woman clutched her husband's arm, sobbing quietly. Marcus, the bartender, had his hands locked behind his head, his face drained of color. 2 children huddled against their mother near table 9, their small bodies shaking. The nervous robber, the one Jenna had already tagged as the weak link, moved through the crowd, his movements jerky and aggressive. Wallets, jewelry, watches, everything in the bag. He shoved the duffel at an elderly man who fumbled with his wedding ring. But while everyone else's attention was fixed on the guns and the shouting, Jenna was working. Her eyes tracked each robber's position without moving her head. Leader Cole, 12 o'clock, 20 feet, covering the main group. Nervous one, 4 o'clock, moving, distracted by valuables. Shotgun, 6 o'clock, static position at entrance, watching the street. 4th man, 9 o'clock, covering the kitchen and rear hallway. She noted their stance, their trigger discipline, how they moved. Cole had military bearing, controlled, methodical. The others were less trained. Shotgun kept his finger inside the trigger guard, a rookie mistake. Nervous one held his rifle too low, telegraphing his inexperience. Jenna's breathing slowed. Her heart rate, which had spiked initially, began to settle into a combat rhythm. This was familiar territory. Different country, different threat, same principles. Assess. Adapt. "Please," Rachel called out, her voice steady despite her pale complexion. "Take whatever you want. The safe is in the office. I'll open it. Just don't hurt anyone." Cole turned toward her, his rifle sweeping across the crowd. "Smart lady. That's what I like to hear. Cooperation." He gestured to the 4th robber. "Check the office. Get that safe open." As the robber moved past her toward the back, Jenna noted the Glock on his hip, retention holster, right-handed draw. She filed the information away. While terror paralyzed those around her, Jenna's mind had become a tactical computer, calculating distances, identifying weapons, mapping exits, counting ammunition. She didn't just see 4 men with guns. She saw patterns, weaknesses, opportunities. And she was already 3 moves ahead. Cole paced in front of the hostages, his rifle moving with him in a practiced 2-hand grip. "Here's how this works. We get what we came for, nobody plays hero, And in 20 minutes you're all telling this story at your next dinner party. Simple. His eyes swept across the crowd, pausing briefly on each face. When he reached Jenna, hunched between Marcus and an older couple, he dismissed her in half a second. Just another terrified server. Not a threat. It was exactly what she needed him to think. Jenna kept her shoulders rounded, her breathing shallow and rapid, the physiological markers of panic. But behind her wide, tear-filled eyes, she was hunting. Nervous one is the trigger. He's sweating, keeps wiping his palm on his jeans. Adrenaline dump, no training to manage it. He'll be the first to make a mistake. Shotgun at the door is disciplined but isolated. If something happens inside, he'll have to choose between his position and helping his team. Split-second hesitation. Fourth man just came back from the office, empty-handed. The safe's on a timer. Cole's plan is falling apart. Where's the money? Cole's voice rose, an edge of frustration cutting through his controlled demeanor. He grabbed Rachel by the arm, yanking her forward. You said you'd cooperate. It's a time-lock safe, Rachel stammered. It won't open until morning. I swear, I don't have the override code. The nervous robber swung his rifle toward a businessman at table 5. Maybe you need motivation. Maybe someone needs to. Everybody shut up. Cole roared, shoving Rachel back toward the group. He turned to his team, his body language tight with anger. The plan was deteriorating. Pressure was building. And pressure creates mistakes, Jenna thought, watching the micro-expressions, the shifting weight, the fractional loss of muzzle discipline. Keep pushing each other. Keep getting angry. I'll wait. She lowered her gaze submissively, blending back into the mass of frightened hostages. The nervous robber made his fatal mistake at 7:03 p.m. He was standing 3 feet from Jenna, waving his rifle at the elderly man who'd been too slow removing his watch. Move faster, old man. I don't have all. He turned his back to her. For just 2 seconds, his attention was completely fixed on his victim, his rifle pointed away, his peripheral vision blocked by his own shoulder. 2 seconds is a lifetime. Jenna's hand shot out, no hesitation, no telegraphing. She grabbed the heavy wine bottle from the table beside her, 18 inches of thick glass, and swung it in a tight, controlled arc. The bottle connected with the base of his skull with a sickening crack. The robber dropped like a puppet with cut strings, his rifle clattering across the hardwood floor. The dining room erupted into chaos. Customers screamed. Marcus dove behind the bar. Cole spun toward the sound, his rifle coming up, but Jenna was already gone. She dropped the bottle and rolled backward the instant after impact, using the overturned table behind her as cover. By the time Cole's muzzle swept the area, she'd melted into the tangle of frightened hostages, her body low, her movements soundless. What they find her? Cole's voice cracked with fury and confusion. The waitress. Where'd she go? Shotgun abandoned his post at the door, moving into the dining room. The fourth robber swept his rifle across the crowd, but saw only terrified faces, raised hands, people pressing themselves against walls. Jenna was invisible again, but this time by choice. From her position crouched behind a column near the kitchen entrance, she watched them scatter, watched their formation break apart, watched discipline give way to panic. 1 down, 3 to go. They're reactive now, not tactical. They'll make more mistakes. Her pulse was steady. Her hands didn't shake. Staff Sergeant Matthews had taken control, and the mission parameters were crystal clear. Neutralize the threat, protect the civilians, win. The hunters had just realized they were being hunted. The fourth robber moved past the kitchen entrance, his rifle scanning left, eyes searching the crowd for the waitress who'd just dropped his partner. He never looked down. Jenna exploded upward from her crouch, driving her shoulder into his midsection with the full force of her body weight. The impact sent him stumbling backward into a table. Before he could recover, she stripped the rifle from his grip with a practiced disarming technique. Redirect, control, break, and slammed the buttstock into his temple. He crumpled. 2 down. "She's got a gun!" Shotgun yelled, swinging his weapon toward her. Jenna kicked the dining table in front of her. It toppled forward, creating a barrier between her and the shotgun blast that tore through the air a half-second later. With splintered, glass shattered, buckshot embedded itself in oak. But Jenna was already moving. She dropped the rifle, too long for close quarters, and vaulted over the bar in one fluid motion, landing beside Marcus, who stared at her in shock. "Stay down," she commanded, her voice cold and authoritative. Not the timid waitress. Not anymore. Cole appeared at the bar's edge, his rifle leveled. "Who the hell are you?" Jenna met his eyes. No fear. No submission. Only the flat, predatory calm of a trained combatant. "Someone you should have left alone." She grabbed a heavy cast-iron skillet from the prep station and hurled it. Cole flinched, firing reflexively. The round punched through bottles behind the bar. In that split second of distraction, Jenna surged forward. Close quarters combat. Her specialty. She closed the distance before Cole could recover, redirecting his rifle with one hand while driving a palm strike into his throat with the other. He gagged, stumbling back. She followed, relentless, controlled. A knee to his midsection doubled him over. An elbow to the jaw sent him sprawling. The rifle clattered away. Jenna stood over him, breathing steady, every muscle coiled and ready. Shotgun was the last one standing, and his hands were shaking. Cole pushed himself to his feet, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. His eyes burned with rage and disbelief. "You think you've won? You think?" He lunged, 6'3" and 240 of pure aggression, reaching for the Glock on his hip. But Jenna was already inside his reach. She intercepted his draw with a wrist lock, torquing his arm at an unnatural angle. He roared in pain. She pivoted, using his own momentum against him, and drove him face-first into the bar. The impact was brutal. Before he could recover, she had his arm pinned behind his back, the Glock now in her hand. "Don't move," she said quietly, pressing the muzzle against the base of his spine. "Not a threat. Promise." Cole went still, his breath coming in ragged gasps against the bar top. Across the room, Shotgun stood frozen, his weapon half raised, his eyes darting between his unconscious partners and the waitress who dismantled them in under 3 minutes. "Put it down," Jenna commanded, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "You don't want to be the one who makes me pull this trigger." His hands trembled. The shotgun wavered. "Look around," Jenna continued, her tone level, almost conversational. "Your team is done. You have 2 choices. Walk out of here in handcuffs or get carried out on a stretcher. Choose smart." The shotgun clattered to the floor. "Hands behind your head. Knees. Now." He complied, dropping to the ground. Jenna kept Cole pinned with one hand while covering Shotgun with the Glock, her eyes never leaving either target. In the distance, sirens wailed, growing closer. Marcus emerged slowly from behind the bar, his face a mixture of awe and confusion. "Jenna, what the hell?" She didn't answer. Her focus remained locked on the threats until she heard the crunch of broken glass under boots and the shout she'd been waiting for. "Police! Hands where we can see them!" Only then did she exhale. Mission complete. Weapon on the ground. Hands up. Now. Jenna slowly placed the Glock on the bar, then raised her hands, her movements deliberate and non-threatening. "For suspects." 3 unconscious, 1 compliant. No civilian casualties. Scene is secure. The lead officer, a veteran sergeant named Davies, swept his sidearm across the room, taking in the unconscious robbers, the shattered glass, the terrified hostages, and the calm woman in the waitress uniform standing in the center of it all. "Who are you?" Davies asked, his weapon lowering slightly. "Jenna Matthews. I work here." She gestured toward Cole, still pinned against the bar. "That one's the leader. He's armed. Glock 19 right hip, retention holster." Davies exchanged glances with his partner. "You did this?" "Yes, sir." "Are you law enforcement?" "Former military. Marine Corps." Her tone was matter-of-fact, almost apologetic. "They didn't leave me much choice." As paramedics and additional officers flooded the restaurant, the hostages began to emerge from their shock. Rachel stood slowly, staring at Jenna as if seeing her for the first time. Marcus remained behind the bar, mouth still hanging open. "You saved us," an elderly woman whispered, tears streaming down her face. "That man was going to. You saved all of us." Jenna's expression softened. "I'm just glad everyone's okay." But as the officers led the robbers away in handcuffs and statements were taken, Jenna quietly slipped toward the back hallway. She retrieved her apron from where it had fallen, brushed broken glass from her sleeves, and retied her ponytail. Davies found her there, notepad in hand. "We're going to need a full statement." "Of course." She paused. "But after that, I'd like to finish my shift if that's all right. People still need to eat." Davies blinked. "You want to go back to work? After what just happened?" Jenna offered a small, tired smile. "It's what I do, sir." 3 weeks later, the Grove Bistro reopened its doors. The shattered entrance had been replaced with reinforced glass. The bullet hole in the ceiling had been patched and painted over. The local news had run the story for 2 days before moving on to the next headline. Life, as it always does, continued. Jenna Matthews stood at the server station, entering an order into the POS system. Table 7. Grilled salmon, asparagus, no butter. House salad, balsamic. It was a Friday evening, and the dining room hummed with the familiar rhythm of conversation and clinking glasses. To anyone walking in off the street, nothing seemed different. The restaurant looked the same. The menu was unchanged, but subtle shifts had occurred beneath the surface. Marcus no longer made jokes about Jenna being a robot. Instead, he watched her move through the dining room with something closer to respect, or perhaps cautious curiosity. Rachel had offered her a raise, which Jenna politely declined. "I'm just doing my job," she'd said. The regulars noticed too, though they couldn't quite articulate what had changed. Mrs. Chun, who came in every Tuesday for the meatloaf special, found herself seeking Jenna's section specifically. "There's something about her," she told her husband. "She makes you feel safe." Jenna didn't seek the attention. She didn't share war stories or correct people's assumptions. She simply poured coffee, took orders, and cleared plates with the same quiet efficiency as before. But late at night, alone in her apartment, Jenna would sit by the window with a cup of tea and allow herself a moment of reflection. She'd proven something that night, not to the hostages or the police or the news cameras, but to herself. She could leave the uniform behind. She could build a civilian life. But when the moment demanded it, when lives hung in the balance, Corporal Matthews would always answer the call. That knowledge didn't make her feel powerful. It made her feel ready. 6 months after the incident, a new hire joined the Grove Bistro's kitchen staff. His name was David Chun, a culinary school graduate eager to prove himself. On his 3rd day, while taking a smoke break in the alley, he noticed Jenna carrying 2 full bus tubs from the dining room. effortlessly balancing 60 pounds of dishes like they weighed nothing. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 3.5 years, Jenna replied, setting the tubs down gently. "You like it?" She smiled, genuine, warm. "I do. It's good work. Honest work." David nodded, then hesitated. "I heard something happened here before I started. Something with robbers." Jenna's expression didn't change. It did, but everyone was okay. That's what matters. She picked up the empty tubs and headed back inside, leaving David with more questions than answers. But that was Jenna's way. She didn't broadcast her story. She didn't need validation or headlines or gratitude. Inside the restaurant, she moved through her shift with practiced grace, refilling water glasses, laughing at a regular's terrible joke, patiently explaining the gluten-free options to a new customer. To most observers, she was simply Jenna. Reliable, kind, unremarkable. Yet for those who looked closer, really looked, there were signs. The way she positioned herself with clear sightlines to all exits. The calm she maintained when a drunk customer became belligerent. Her voice firm but controlled until he left quietly. The protective instinct that surfaced whenever children entered her section. These weren't the actions of someone playing a role. They were the reflexes of someone who understood that strength isn't about dominance. It's about service. As Jenna clocked out that evening, she paused at the employee exit, looking back at the Grove one last time. The warm glow of the dining room, the sound of laughter spilling into the street. People gathered, safe, together. She may have traded her rifle for an order pad, her combat boots for sneakers. But Corporal Jenna Matthews was still standing post. Still protecting. Still serving. Still strong. The most dangerous person in the room might be the one you never notice. Jenna proved that true strength doesn't need recognition. It just needs to show up when it matters most. Want more stories of hidden heroes and quiet warriors? Subscribe now and never miss the next untold story. The next hero might surprise you.